Hey.
What is up, people? Jean Carlos here with the Total Body Training Podcast, and today we have a special guest. I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name's Joseph Pena. I'm pretty big into powerlifting here, and he asked me to come in and talk a little bit about what I do and how we do it.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking with Joseph Pena, and the first time that I heard about Joseph was when he squatted 1,025, right? 1,025
Yes,
pounds.
1,025
pounds. I saw this kid blow up. You were still in high school at the time, right?
Oh yeah, I was a senior.
Yeah, he was a senior in high school, and I saw this all over the internet. I was like, who the hell is this kid who's lifting all this weight? So we're going to get to that in just a few. We're going to ask him a few questions. If you're on the live stream, feel free to leave questions at the bottom. If you're over here on Instagram, feel free to leave those. We'll try our best to answer them at the end of the podcast. Today's episode of the Total Body Training Podcast is brought to you by Theory Coffee. They are not an official endorser of my podcast here. I just really like them. I drink their coffee every day. That's what I'm drinking right here. The guys there are awesome. They're just down the street from us on Nacogdoches. They have a food truck. Best coffee in town. Yeah.
So, I might have to try that now.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it is. All right, man. So, Joseph, tell us a little bit about who you are. Just tell us a little bit about your current records right now in powerlifting.
All right, current records as of right now in powerlifting. Statewide, I competed in THSPA, which is kind of like the big overall competitive area in Texas. High school powerlifting. Most of the time it's equipped. They are thinking about coming out with a raw division, but my records in that, I have the Division II record in the squat, which was 1025, as we've said, and then I also have the total, which is 2145. That's squat, bench, and deadlift put together. But yeah, those are my records as in statewide. Nationwide, I have the biggest squat right now. That's raw. That's 860. So the difference between raw and equipped, we'll get into a little bit later, but that's it's a little bit less. It's 860. And then worldwide, that's it's also 854, which is a little bit less than the 860, but I didn't do the 860 at a world competition, so it didn't really count.
Okay.
Yet.
Where did you do the 860? Whoa.
I did it at the Nebraska State Championships. I'm pretty sure it counted for an American record, but I forgot what kind of judges were there. Hopefully they had the right judges, but if not, it's just a state record right now. So if not, I'll set it next year at nationals, which will probably be 8 something, hopefully. Pretty high.
And so, so people can kind of know at home, powerlifting has several different federations that people compete in. And you compete within the USA PL, right?
Yes,
That's what you compete in. Yeah. Like exclusively, is that what you do? Or do you ever do things with like the USPA, anybody else?
I have done a couple USPA meets, but that was like when I was younger, sophomore, junior year of high school. But now that I'm in college and I'm a collegiate powerlifter, we stick mostly to that USAPL IPF bracket.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. And then you said your national records are, can you tell us your weight again on those?
My national records, I'm competing mostly raw right now, so my national records are 854, and then my total is 880, which I'm pretty sure is a national record for the super heavyweight juniors and sub juniors.
So in the super heavyweight sub juniors right now, that's the category that you've got the records in. Okay, awesome, man. So my question for you, and I think that's a question that a lot of people are wondering, is what leads to a teenager squatting 1,025 pounds? Where and when did you start strength training, and when did you start powerlifting? Let's start with strength training, and then we'll kind of just discuss. Actually, can we start there? Can you tell our audience what the difference between strength training and powerlifting is?
Okay, yeah, the difference between strength training and powerlifting is that strength training, we're not really focused on the actual lifts, so the technique might be a little bit different because powerlifters, the bench setup is a little bit different between strength training. I mean, because initially I was a football player, so I wasn't trying to have a powerlifting bench, huge arch, feet way back, grip way wide. I was doing more of a power style bench, closer grip, flat back, really just trying to get the movement going, really get all the upper chest going, but that's pretty much the main difference I see between strength training and powerlifting. I started strength training when I was very little. I was 8 years old, in a little gym, Holmes High School here in San Antonio, Texas. We had a lot of fun. My dad and his friend Coach Barry. I don't know if they'll see this. But
no, you can go ahead and say who Coach Barry is. Yeah, shout out to Coach Barry.
Shout out to Coach Barry and my father, John Pena. But yeah, they were big influences in getting my powerlifting career started. They were training hard over the summers back when I was 8 to 10 years old. I mean, they really I saw them working so hard, and then they finally asked me like, hey, like, you want to try this? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm a beginnings man. I started out with a 15-pound aluminum bar, just like everybody else. And gradually they put me on a good program and linear progression all the way to where I am now, man.
You said you did linear progression. Was there a specific program that they were using to get you there?
The specific program that it was the starting strength program,
Yeah.
which is it's probably the #1 selling strength book on Amazon right now. It's very widely used, especially it's great for people that haven't started training yet. I'd recommend it to any novices that just started strength training. It's really great. It's a really great protocol just to get all your strength up and create a good foundation, at least in technique, so that you can stay safer when you're lifting.
Do you still use the methods that you were taught in starting strength for your powerlifting and for your strength training practice right now?
For the strength training, yes, I still use the same techniques.
Yes.
And I still use the same movements.
Yeah.
I stick to the main 3 and the accessories that they really hone down on you, like overhead press, rows, RDLs, those main components that'll help you with your lifts. I really stick to those mostly. My actual training program has changed a little bit. I do kind of like a modified Texas method right now, but I still stick to the main areas. Like I do my 5s a lot, which I find very useful for me. 5s is what I feel is the best way to work your strength up.
So you're talking about like 5x5s?
Yeah, 3x5s, 5x5s. Now that I'm more of a power lifter now, I incorporate singles and then drop down to like 5x5s and stuff like that. But I still incorporate my 5s regularly.
And so there's a difference between the Texas method and the starting strength method?
Yes, the starting strength method is very, I wouldn't want to say plain Jane, but it's pretty simple. 3x5s, squat, bench, deadlift. Deadlift is a little bit different. They usually do a 1x5, but my father always felt that we needed a little bit more volume, so we usually do a couple more sets of deadlift. For 5s, of course. And then the Texas method involves like a lot more varying intensities, like a light day, a heavy day, and like a work day. So we switched up a little bit on how it's actually structured. So for my actual training, I'll have a light day, which is my I do like a big single, which I just incorporate just because I like the fact that it gets me used to heavier weights on my back, gets me used to doing the movement, and then I drop down to those lighter weights, and I do usually like a 4x4 or 5x5, just to make sure I'm getting the work in, make sure I get myself a little volume in. The work days I still do my 3x5s. It's just the intensity days now. So my 3x5s, I mean, just yesterday I did a 782 3x5. So I'm still working really hard on my 3x5s. Coach Rip, I'm still doing my 3x5s. Love you. And then
shout out to Marc Rippito.
Shout out
to Marc Rippito. Yeah, if you don't know who that is, or you don't know specifically what we're talking about the starting strength method, which was created by Marc Rippito, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so if you want, if you're watching the YouTube version of this video, you can hop on YouTube and I'll post a link so that you can.
There's videos everywhere.
Yeah. The guy is super knowledgeable, and I mean, like. Can I step in for a second?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Just as Joseph was saying, like a lot of the stuff that you learn when you're doing that program, from what I'm learning, because I'm new to learning about it, is that simplicity is better. Like that going with something that targets you and that makes you stronger in a shorter, easier way is better in their method. Now, there are different people who have different methodologies or different programs for getting strong. Now, a lot of my people, I have to kind of explain this because I have an audience that's really diverse. So, I have people who, aren't necessarily powerlifters, but do strength training, right? So I just want to kind of clarify, the difference, and I'm not going to go through like every single method because we'd have to explain the Bulgarian method, the Juggernaut method. But my point is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And there are a lot of different people who train under like a certain methodology for getting stronger for the sake of either athletic development, which is where the strong start Start program goes in, where that's Marc Ripeto's method, or something like getting ready for powerlifting. So you would look at like the Juggernaut method, or let me see, the Bulgarian method. Now all of those things are there are people who are advocates and really strongly for one of those things, and there's a lot of debate in the community as to which one of those is better. Here we're just kind of talking about his, and I just wanted to kind of clarify that there's a lot of different styles. That's it.
There is.
But you were saying a little bit about how like that's what you're using right now, and you're kind of mixing it in. And why are you kind of? Well, let's go back. So you started off when you were in elementary, so you were 8.
Yeah.
You were about 8, which is pretty young, but that's like really badass. I mean, a lot of kids at 8. I know myself. What was I doing at 8? I was not doing what Joseph here is doing, and that's why I don't squat 1,025 pounds. Like I was probably just hanging out and playing Sega or some shit like that, Like this guy's had an interesting.
It's a great system, by the way.
It's a great
Sega.
System. Oh, Sega. What's you play Sega?
I stick more to Nintendo 64.
Oh, okay, Nintendo 64. Okay, what was your game on N64?
GoldenEye, come on, dude.
Oh yeah, you had to, man. You get the golden gun, yeah, man, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Anyway,
it's a good time. No. I want to know about the shit you like, man. That's cool. They want to know. So the N64, it's been out for a long time. If you want to hop on like Craigslist, you can probably
link in the description.
Yeah, look in the description. The N64 just came out. It's cutting edge graphics. We'll post a link in there to some Craigslist.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's some used versions of it. All right, so when you weren't playing N64 and you were training, what was kind of like going on with you? Did you like strength training right from the beginning?
It was like I was really on the fence when I first started. I was all like, yeah, this is cool, but like I could be doing like video games, I can be out playing other stuff. But like once like I started getting around like 10 to 12, those years, that's when I really was like, man, I'm actually pretty decent at this. Like I could actually be kind of strong for once.
Yeah.
So that's when I finally started getting. I mean, when I was 12, I squatted 400. So I was like, wow, I'm actually pretty decent at it. And then that was the first time that anybody had ever come up to me and was like, are you sure you're natural? And like I was 12, like why would I be on anything? Like what is going on? But yeah, that was my first real experience of like, wow, like I'm actually pretty decent at this.
Yeah. Okay, so people were asking you from that, because that's a huge total. Yeah. I mean, I would say that most people at like a conventional gym, you know what I mean, like a Gold's Gym, that are older and have been squatting for a while, are not squatting 400 pounds. that's outside of the average. So people were asking you at a young age if you were using steroids or drug enhancers.
I mean, like I was 12. Like really, like my parents were gonna stick a 12-year-old with like that's just. I mean, that's beyond me that some people would think that would happen. Yeah.
I'll comment that Joseph, he competes in the USA PL, which is a drug-tested federation.
Regularly. I get out of me tested and everything now. It happens all the time, a lot more than you think.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? When was the last time you got tested?
Less than a month ago.
Jeez, yeah, and they just show up whenever, right? Isn't that the situation?
Pretty much. So now that I'm on the world team, going into Canada this year, another shout out IPF Worlds this summer. Yeah, so I'll be going there this summer, and they have out of me testing all the time, water test. They showed up and took my piss and was like, we'll be watching you. And so
yeah, they literally just show up. Like, from what I understand, you give them like a time period.
Yeah, you give them a time period, and then they're just like, all right, we're gonna come there, and they kind of just show up and test you. Yeah, and folks, like the truth is that if you're doing steroids or if you're using any kind of performance enhancers, you're gonna get caught. Eventually, you're gonna get caught. No matter how good you are, you'll get caught eventually. Do you know what the penalty is if you get caught? If you get popped with steroids, usually it's a 4-year ban. And most of the time, if you get popped with a 4-year ban, most people don't come back after that. Oh, yeah, because they're gone so long. Yeah, they're like, it's 4 years. Like, they have all that time to think about it, and they're like, well, why come back if it's already been 4 years? No, yeah. Just a side note, I'm not advocating for steroids, like, but if you want, I guess if you want to use steroids. If you want to, there are federations that
that allow you to use steroids.
USPA is the big one in the United States.
Yeah, they allow it. So
I wouldn't say allow. They have a non-tested federation.
There we go. Yeah, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Come over here, kind of thing. And I know the USPA does both. So I mean, I recently went to a USPA certification meeting, and they were just talking about how some of their competitions are now going to be drug tested and some aren't. You know, I mean, I think that's the best route to go. So
don't an option.
Yeah, you don't try to cheat the system. It's just lame. You know, you can just compete in that one. Yeah. Okay. So you were saying, so you figured out you squatted 400 pounds when you were 12 years old. At what body weight?
I was a big kid, so I was probably. I mean, I'm sure my dad would correct me, but I was probably around like 260. At 12. Like I was a big kid back then.
Yeah. Man.
I mean, not that I'm any smaller now, but.
Were you the same height that you are right now? Or
I was around there. Like I was probably closer to like 5'7", 5'8", but I haven't grown much since I was little.
Yeah, I understand. Because like I was reading interviews and it said that you were tall, like almost right from the get go. Yeah, that's cool, man.
I hit my growth spurt pretty early.
Yeah.
I was the only tall Mexican in my middle school.
Yeah, it's not as common in the Latino, the Hispanic population. Yeah, to be as tall as they are. I mean, your whole family. Your dad is tall.
Yeah, he's pretty tall. Yeah.
And I would say even your mom is taller.
For Hispanic woman, she's pretty tall. She's like 5'4", 5'5".
Yeah,
she's pretty up there for Hispanic woman.
Yeah, for sure. So, like that being said, so you did that, and did you do that in competition, or was this like did this?
It was a competition. That was probably my first like big competition. It was in AAU nationals. Yeah. So I don't know. I'd have to go look it up if the record is still there, but. Yeah, I did that at an AAU's when I was 12.
Man, and what is AU? So our audience
it's another federation that they do everything though. AAU does everything. They have track and field. They have wrestling. They have taijutsu and everything. Track. I mean, they're really big into all sports. Yeah, and mostly youth kids because I mean it's AAU's. I don't know if that means anything AAU.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, AAU is a really big organization that does pretty much all the sports, and just so happened that an AAU competition came around when I was about 12, and when I was like, hey, you should go try this, and we took a trip up to, I think it was Austin, and we stayed the night there and squatted 402 the next day.
Was this your first competition?
No, my first competition, I think it was around when I was like 9 or 10, because like I started training and my parents were like, like I said, my father and Coach Barry were always, they were training consistently over the summers and throughout the years. Yeah. So they were doing competitions all the time, and we'd go watch them and cheer them on and stuff. So finally they were like, oh, we signed up for a meet, and you want to do it too? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, I've been training with y'all over the summers and stuff. Like, I'm ready. Like, or I'm not ready, but like.
Do you remember if you were nervous the first time that you did that, or was it just kind of like you had been around it?
My dad will testify to this, that I was not nervous at all. I was more excited to eat the sandwich that he bought for me during the meet.
So you were just there for the food.
Pretty much. I mean, like I was a kid, man. I was like, I'm doing whatever you tell me to do. I mean, I was at a young kid, like they would have classified me as ADHD. I was everywhere. I was doing all the sports, everything. But I've calmed down since then a little bit. But
yeah, I understand, man. I think I would have been called that when I was a kid, you know. I mean, but I turned out okay. You know?
You turned out okay. I mean, sure, your parents smack you on the behind a little bit just to calm you down, but like, I mean, we're fine.
Yeah. That's it's an interesting topic, like whether or not like people who are creative or people who want to try things or be athletic are ADD. I mean, it's debatable.
Yeah, it's it's up in the air.
Yeah, it's for a different podcast.
We're not doctors. We're not. I don't want to get into
this. Yeah. We're not diagnosing your kids with ADD here. Not yet. Maybe on the next podcast in a year. Yeah. We'll both have PhDs. We'll help you out. We'll bring your kids in.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, he's working on it. Like I'm gonna be a back alley doctor. I'm just gonna do a PhD on the DL. UCL. Get it from like an internet college or something.
Kaplan. I mean, I heard they're giving out doctorates now. We'll find a way.
Shout out to Kaplan, doctor degree in being a doctor. I don't know what you call that.
Doctor, it's something.
A doctor of doctoring. All right, man. So like you compete at 14, and that's kind of like around the time that I read that you did 600 around the age of 14. Is that correct?
That's really when I started like hitting my big jumps throughout the years. And 14, I really hit that big 600. I mean, that was a pretty. I mean, right before I squatted, I went to the restroom and they're like, "Hey, kid, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm competing." They're like, "Oh, what are you gonna squat?" I was like 600, and they were just like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to be strong for once." So
yeah. So like in powerlifting, because I've never actually competed. When you're in powerlifting, do people openly tell each other what they're going to be squatting? Is that common, or is that more so like? It
depends who you are, honestly. Because like there's some people that are like, "Oh man, everyone's out to get me," so I gotta be like quiet about my attempts and stuff. They're a little bit more tactical. I mean, me as a person, I don't really care whether or not somebody like knows what I'm trying to do or what I'm doing. I mean, people ask me all the time, like, "Oh yeah, your next meet's here, and like, what are you gonna try to squat there?" And I'll most of the time I'll tell them, if it's something that I think is crazy for me, like I'll be like, "Oh, just wait for it."
Yeah, I understand. So I mean, then that being said, like, what drives you in competition? Because I know that you're a football player, and we'll kind of get to that. But what is your motive when you go to powerlifting meet?
To me, and my dad's pretty instilled this to me like since I was little. But powerlifting is more of a you versus you sport. Like, sure, yeah, they give out medals and stuff, but are you better than you were your last meet? That's what I always go to when I go to a meet. So, really, pretty much is I'm trying to do better than I was at my last meet.
Yeah. So it's more like you against yourself.
Yeah, like I prefer to see it that way. I mean, of course, there's people that are there to beat you and stuff, and you can get into that later. But at least for your first couple meets, it should be, am I better than I was last meet?
Yeah, that's definitely been the case that I've read from people who, have recommendations for what you should do, when you're getting ready to go to competition. And not only that, but, I think that makes it so that it's more fun and it takes some of the pressure off of you. Because if you're swinging in there trying to be like the best when you first start out, you're not going to be, unless you're some kind of genetic freak or you've been in the hiding with like your strength.
I've met multiple of them. It's not funny.
Oh, really?
Just like people that are just like, they come out the womb and like they're doing like close to what I do. It's like, I don't understand how you do that.
Could you mention some people?
Being in college right now, I've met a couple of them. I mean, Josh Peridot, I don't know if you know him. He's another USA Powerlifter, and Eric Lewis. I mean, those dudes have like just started training. They're like babies in as far as training goes. They've been training like 3-4 years, and they're already numbers are close to mine. And I'm just like, at least as far as like bench and deadlift go, their squats getting there, but their numbers are already pretty close to mine. I'm just like, I've been training at this for almost 10 years now, and like you're already getting this close to me. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be tough. So like for you, like that gets into the debate, and something that people talk about a lot is, do you think that like work overrides, like what's more important? Work, like the amount of work that you put into something, or the genetics?
No, I feel like work overrides everything.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
Even though these dudes are pretty young and their numbers are pretty close, I still have the work behind me that I'm still just that much more. So I've put in the work, and I've gotten to where I am today. So people can call me a genetic freak all they want. I know that 12 years of being consistent and pretty much injury free, that I should be where I am today.
Yep.
There's no doubt that I put in the time and effort, that it's not me being a genetic freak anymore. Like, yeah, like I was born with decent hips and this and that, but at some point you gotta use what you're given. Yeah. So 12 years later, I'm finally doing what I'm doing now. So I don't consider me being a genetic freak, although most people would. No, I usually consider that if you're doing this good, you're putting in a lot of work. And those dudes, Josh Peridot and Eric Lewis, I mean, they're really hard workers too. I mean, they're on my team. I see them every day. They're putting in the work day in and day out. And I can see that even though they haven't been training as long as I have, they know what they're doing, and they're putting in the time and effort that they need to be the best.
Also, were they training with different things like before? Like, were they doing any kind of fitness, like any kind of exercise before they got into powerlifting? Or?
They're athletes.
Yeah,
athletes.
Yeah.
I mean, genetic freaks. I mean, they're athletes, man. Josh, he's from Wisconsin. He played football there, and he's from Toma. We always joke about it because like he went to IPF Worlds equipped, and he won. And when he came back, he got what's it called? He like a mini parade.
Yeah.
they like police escorted him in the back of a truck and everything. So
Whoa.
every time we saw that, yeah, I mean, it's a real small town.
Where at?
Toma, Wisconsin.
That's pretty funny.
Dude, it was a pretty big deal, man. Yeah. So yeah, every time we see him, we're all like, "Oh, look, it's the mayor of Toma. He gets parades and everything." So we always joke with him about that. And then Eric, man, he's been a sleeper, man. He's only done like 2 meets, and this kid he's just a workhorse. I mean, he's from Michigan. He's been working really hard. He's just in there every day putting it all. He's one of those dudes that's amped up for everything. Like he's there, he's screaming, he's yelling, he's banging his head on the wall. I mean, I get scared for him a little bit. Like I was like, dude, your head must hurt. Like, whoa, your head must hurt. But but no, man, he's really cool, and he's really working hard, and they definitely put the work behind it that they.
Yeah, and so like I just want to kind of comment on this for a second. I think what I like or what I'm hearing is something that we teach here, and we also teach on our YouTube podcast, is that just because you aren't good at something the first time that you start it doesn't mean you won't eventually be good at it. And there's a difference between having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So essentially, like, some people think that, athletes must just be that way, that like a basketball player or a football player must just be that way. And in some cases, like there are like slight advantages, like like a basketball player or a runner maybe has a certain kind of body, or a powerlifter has a certain kind of body. But ultimately, it's like what you do with what you've got that really matters. And Joseph, the reason that he's gotten to where he is because he's put in all of this time and this effort.
I mean, 12 years of powerlifting, like if you're not good after 12 years, like, I mean, not to like talk down anybody, but like there's other things that come into play, like injuries and stuff like that. But I've been pretty injury free. I've been lucky for that and all that stuff. But 12 years later, like if you're not somewhere that you want to be, you're probably not putting in the work that you should have. Yeah.
You're probably not, or you're not doing the work the right way, if that makes sense. So maybe you're programming, right? And you can speak to this. You would know more. 12. He's got 12 years of experience.
Testify.
Yeah, you can testify about that. But like maybe the method that you're using to get stronger or to get in better shape or whatever for whatever sport isn't the right one for you, and you'd have to kind of like reconsider what you want to do next. And for like my beginners out there, I want you to know that like. And I always tell people this story. It's a story about Michael Jordan. I don't know if you know. I don't really. Yeah. So Michael Jordan wasn't accepted onto the team that he tried out for when he was in, I think it was like high school or elementary. And his mom just told him, she was like, Michael Jordan, she's like, you're not that good at it. You got to practice harder. And so the dude would get up every morning and practice harder so he could get good at it. And he actually got turned down when he went and tried out for the NBA. So they were, he tried out for 2 or 3 teams that were just like, no, you're not that good, or like, no, we're not interested. And they passed up on a huge opportunity. And so my point here is that, people aren't always just naturally gifted. And sometimes if you're naturally gifted, you take it for granted. So I also knew when I was in high school, people who are athletic, I'm 30 now, but I knew people who are athletic. I was not athletic in high school who took that for granted and they just didn't try anymore, and so the moment they got out of high school, they just stopped doing all that stuff and they're no longer athletic, right? Because they didn't put in the effort. So, just keep that in mind.
Always.
Yeah. All right. So, at what point did you decide, have you ever, when you were strength training at a young age, right? When did you start to get the attention of people like Bill Kazmaier or, all these other great weightlifters or powerlifters? Because when you look online, or even like Marc, like all these people, when you look online, there are pictures of Joseph hanging out with these people who are very well known in the strength community. I mean, at what point did people start pointing a finger at you and being like, whoa, like, look at this guy? Like,
I want to say my first experience like meeting someone pretty big was 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
I was 16 at the time, I think.
Yeah.
I went to Raw Nationals in Colorado, and Blaine Sumner, he's freaking huge in powerlifting right now.
Yep.
I just finished squatting. I squatted 727 that meet, and I walked back to the warm-up room to get ready for bench, and he stops and grabs my dad. He's like, "Is that your kid?" And my dad was like, "Yeah, why?" He was like, "You need to tell him to talk to me after this meet. That kid's gonna be something." And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
It was just one of those moments, like this dude that's freaking twice my size, dude lifting twice my weight all the time, just told me that I might be something someday. I was like, this is gonna be pretty damn good. So that got me pretty excited.
Yeah, Blaine Sumner is the vanilla gorilla is what they call him. Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, he's huge. And he is strong as hell. I don't know what his numbers are right now because I haven't kept up.
Right now, officially, his numbers, I couldn't tell you his deadlift.
Do you know
right
what his
now.
like squat is?
His squat, he's equipped, obviously. I mean, not obviously.
Well, he didn't start that way, right? He started off raw, and then he moved into equip.
Yeah.
Because of his hip. I think the reason he got into equip lifting.
Yeah, he talks about it on his Instagram all the time that he has some issues here, and that the equipment really helped him like feel stable and feel good. But his numbers right now, forgive me, Blaine, if I get them wrong, should be 11-13. And then his bench is like 9. I want to say 907. It's up there in the 9s.
11-13 equipped or raw?
Both of those are equipped.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, but even then, Blaine posted a month or two back that he squatted 1,000 raw in his gym, like just getting back into it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and he's another example of somebody who works really freaking hard to get good at stuff.
He works crazy hard. He's always in the gym. He's a big dude.
He trains alone. He's a very intense person to watch if you follow him on Instagram. I'll post a link to his page even though he's not on here. I'll post it in the YouTube section so you can kind of like see who he is because he's super impressive. His story is super impressive.
Oh yeah.
So like he talked to you and he told you were impressive essentially, right?
At Raw Nationals, like that was the first time like anyone that big was ever like, wow, like you're pretty good at this. And I was like, holy shit, really?
Yeah. And so like, did that feel good? Like getting that kind of attention?
I mean, it felt great. Yeah. I mean, getting the attention of someone like Blaine, like it really like was that motivation. Like, wow, like this big dude thinks I'm good. Like I should probably keep doing that.
Yeah, of course. And that being said, it leads me to another thing that I was thinking about is because I mean, after that, okay, so at what point did you meet Marc Rippetoe?
I mean, training with Coach Barry and my dad, we didn't really meet him for a while.
Okay.
I mean, as soon as I started like squatting like 600 plus, like we started emailing back and forth, him, my dad, and I, and he was like, wow, yeah, your kid's getting really good at this, like keep in touch with me and all this stuff. And then we finally went to one of his strength meets, and I competed there, and we talked for a while. We went to dinner after, and we finally got to know each other a little bit, and it was that was one of those great moments, like, wow, like this is the dude that got me to where I am today because of this program that he wrote. Like, this is gonna be a good day.
Yeah. And so this is when you were a little bit younger at this point.
Yeah, I want to say 16 when I did his strength meet.
Do you still stay in contact with all those guys over there?
I mean, him and all his trainers, they're super smart. I mean, most of his trainers are doctors and lawyers and stuff. So I always try to get insight from them, like, hey, I'm making this little change to my technique, or as far as like my grip and stuff. Would this work? Is this something that I should be looking into? And then the whole reason why I'm on a modified Texas method is because one of his other starting strength coaches, Austin Baraki, he told me to incorporate maybe a heavy single to get used to heavier weights. So he's also a big reason why I'm also where I am right now.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that really sets aside starting strength from other programs. And they're not the only one that does this, but they're one of the few that actually have people who have PhDs and doctors on their staff, or I guess people who help build their programming and take consideration for the athletes and the training methodologies that they use. If you look at other examples, I'm not going to name any, but they're not always written by people who are PhDs. That doesn't necessarily mean that. They're just not always written by somebody who's a PhD.
And if you go on any of the starting strength forums, it's going to be like a lot of like medical terms, and they really get down to like what's actually going on in the body when you're lifting and stuff. It provides a lot of insight and how things actually work, and it's actually very intellectual when you get on the forums and see all the things that they're saying.
Yep, it is. And like I've watched videos and read like books and stuff like that. So that's definitely the case. Okay, so you meet Blaine Sumner, and then I see that you've met other people like Ray Williams, Bill Kazmaier, like all these people. At what point did you start to, or do you see yourself thinking of powerlifting as being a career for you right now? Or has that crossed your mind?
Powerlifting as a career, it's really hard to do, especially since there's not a lot of money in it, and so to speak. But it has come across my mind that like this is powerlifting you can do forever. Like football, basketball, that stuff. Like eventually, like your knee's gonna do something, and you're gonna get injured, or you're just gonna get old. Powerlifting is something you can do forever. I mean, we have categories from kids being 8 years old to people being 60 plus. So you can do it forever, and there's no bounds on you getting stronger. And it all just comes down to whether you want to do it or not. So as a career, it's something that I feel like would be great for me to keep on doing for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. So you definitely see yourself like competing and stuff because you've been doing it as long as you have, and you enjoy it. It sounds like it helps kind of keep you challenged. So like that being said, with having people like Ray Williams, Bill Kazmaier recently had said, and I actually this wasn't recently, but I'd read that he said that you've got this. What was that?
This is the big one.
Yeah, this is the big one. Yeah, he said that you've got a vision, and this guy sounds like he really believes in you. He says that he follows his path. What a great thing for you to be around to enjoy. Does having that kind of support motivate you, or does it make you feel?
That's a huge motivator. Having those big top guys saying like, "Hey, like you're gonna be something." Like, I don't really see it as much as pressure. I don't know. You could see like pressure, like wow, like now I have to be good. But I see it more as a motivator. Like these guys believe that I can be good, so I need to be there for them because they believe in me. So I should work that much harder to get to that point where I can be just like them.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like you don't have the time to let these things like pressure you or stress you out or anything like that. Or you have the reason because you've been kind of doing these things since you were young. So it almost sounds like, and your family, the fact that like your family is so involved, and we'll get into that in a few seconds, that like you versus like a person who's a little bit older and comes into powerlifting or into competitive sports might not experience the same kind of pressure. Like somebody might see that and be like, oh shit, now I've got something to live up to. But it sounds like you're kind of like, no, I'm just cool. Like, that's badass.
I mean, powerlifting has always been like one of those things where like, we're like, like let's go do that. And then just like you said, like I could see it as the pressure and like trying to be as good as everybody wants me to be. But I see it more as like, they believe in me. That's a goal I need to strive for. Yeah. It's not pressure. It's a motivator.
Can you tell us? Did you actually meet Bill? Because you did because I saw a photo of you with Bill. And
so like, what happened was after my first 804 squat, and it got at first I didn't get it, and he was mad about it. He was like, wow, that's kind of a dumb thing to give him a red for, but they overturned it, and I got the squat. He actually came backstage and talked to me for a while, and he was just giving me some wise words on like what I should do, and to keep on training, and just to keep on getting stronger, like. Just all that really cool stuff that you would expect from a guy like Bill Kazmaier. He's very methodical, not methodical. Like he has a lot of analogies for everything, and I really like that because it kind of puts those images into your head. Like wow, like yeah.
So he's kind of like a storyteller kind of person.
He's pretty cool, man. Like he's one of those guys. Like he gets like pretty deep. Yeah, I thought it was pretty deep the way he was talking to me. Like the analogy that I remember the most is that a record is like a dove, and you can hold it and you can hold on to it forever. But if you want to get better, you got to let it go and go high so you can catch it again. Yeah, and I was like, that's actually really deep, and I really like that analogy just because it gives you something more to strive for. Like you can go get that dove again. Yeah, it's not just right here for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I love that because like sometimes what happens, and I think this is what you're speaking to, is that people get really hung up on that one time that they did that really cool thing, or that one time that they got a record, right? But the thing is like, those records can get overturned like this, and if you get hung up
with all the people in powerlifting nowadays, it's getting records is it's a lot harder nowadays. So I understand why people would get hung up on it sometimes, but not dwelling on it too much and just working harder just to make that record as high as possible. Like as of right now, thinking upon like my past records, like my sub-junior records and all those records, my main goal was that if I want to be the best that like I think I am, or not that I think I am, but that I want to be, I need to set those high. I need to set those records higher than I think anybody could touch. So it's not about, oh yeah, this 804 is good. No, this 850 is even better than that. And now whatever comes next is going to be even better than that. It's just setting the bar higher and higher. And whoever breaks it, I will pat you on the back. I worked really hard for that, and you probably even worked really even harder. So I give you a round of applause, whoever gets that.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. And like from what I understand, like that in the powerlifting community, there maybe some people are a little bit more competitive, but it also seems like a lot of people are just excited when they see somebody else do something. And the impression that I get from like watching interviews or like speaking with you is that you get stoked because now it's like, oh shit, that's something else for me to do. I can push it a little bit more. Would you say that's the case? That it kind of motivates you to see other people push and break new ground?
Seeing people break records and seeing people like set new records that they just previously broke, I mean, it's the biggest motivator. Like, wow, those people are doing those numbers. Like, man, like let me go try to do those numbers, if not more. Like, yeah, just it motivates you to do more and be better than you were the day before.
Yep. That's awesome, man. So do you still talk to him, or was that just kind of like a one time?
I mean, I wish I still talked to him.
He's old. Yeah. I mean, excuse me, I'm sorry. Like he's older. He's in his 60s, folks. Like this is a one. Bill Kazmaier, he's like a 3-time world's strongest man competitor. He was all over television because like I think it was during the 80s or the early 90s, I forget, there was a time when there was a lot of like strongman competitions on TV. And I think it's a worldwide, oh God, honestly I don't remember right now off the top of my head, so I don't want to say what it was, but this guy was on TV doing all these impressive things and competing and stuff. Do you know much about, so our viewers can give some context about Bill?
He was really big into the world's strongest man. Like he said, he's a multiple world time champion. He was the world's strongest man for a couple of years at least. He put up huge numbers. He was even a big time powerlifter too. I don't know his numbers off the top of my head. No. Just like for the facts, but yeah, he was big into all that stuff. I mean, he was telling me about his training regimen too, and like it was insane. Like it sounded like a lot of hypertrophy stuff, but it was crazy the amount of work he did.
Yeah, he's definitely an impressive guy. I've watched a lot of like videos of him, and I'm sure you all YouTube him, look it up. Some really cool stuff.
Crazy.
So, so let's talk about like leading up to the, and during this time, were you playing football the whole time that you were lifting?
Yes.
Okay.
All this bleeding up, all these things are happening after football seasons, during football seasons. Like it got really hectic. I mean, I was still playing football. I was trying to be the best I could be there as well. I mean, I'm a very competitive guy, so.
So that's where the competition comes in. Yeah, it has to.
It has to.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, like if you're competing in powerlifting, you have to be competitive at some point.
Yes.
You gotta be want to beat everybody. But yeah, I've always been a pretty competitive guy. So yeah, playing football. I mean, I did a little bit of track. I mean, I wasn't very good at it, but. Yeah, I did all those, and powerlifting, strength training year round.
Yeah. And so do you have to balance out your strength training differently because you compete in football and you powerlift? Because from what I understand, like you could run into like a lot of fatigue, and those things can affect. It's like if you do too much. Let me back up a little bit. There's this idea that's prevalent in the fitness community that like go hard, go home, like, put everything out. And there's some truth to that, but you can overdo it. Oh, yeah. And so like, what do you do to kind of like manage that?
To manage that, I mean, during high school, like we're practicing 5-6 days a week, game days and stuff. But to manage all that, I really my powerlifting was really like, right after football seasons ended, was piloting season all the way until like halfway through the summer, and then I trained for football again. But you really gotta like, during that season where you're doing all those extra activities and all that extra training, I did tend to cut down a little bit on my like the stress I was putting on myself. But I got really lucky at my high school that they were really like into what I was doing. They're like, dude, you're pretty strong. Like, what are you doing to get that strong? So they were pretty. We incorporated what this kind of training that I do in the off season and even a little bit during the summer. So all our players got stronger together, and we incorporated that in the season a little bit too. So we were still, we weren't maintaining throughout the season like everybody else would. We were getting stronger throughout the season. So when we got to those playoff games that we wanted to be in, we weren't winning because we were faster than everybody. I mean, we were a bunch of IBMs. I mean, sorry, IBM is itty bitty Mexican. Yeah, sorry, but we weren't winning because we were faster or we were smarter than anybody. We were better because we were stronger than everybody. I mean, we were a very run heavy team. I mean, we picked a hole and said, try and stop us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this is actually, like, Joseph brings up something, because I've been around his dad a lot. Hold on for 1 second.
Oh, yeah. What did you do? And we're back.
Yeah, and we're back from our commercial break. So you know, where was I? Okay, so you were saying that you were stronger than those people, and a lot of that is a testament, I think, and I could be wrong about this, but to your dad, because your dad, like, his, you know, very strong. He's a phenomenal athlete, but also a person who really preaches this to this day. He came in here at Total Body Training a few weeks ago, and he was just talking so much about how, like, the way that you get better at a sport is being stronger, specifically with, like, football. Do you want to speak a little bit about, like, how your dad has influenced your programming? Because from what I understand, go ahead. No. I have a lot of questions there.
He's probably been the main influencer of all my programming up to this point. I mean, He's been pretty much been there with me every step of the way. I mean, long days, long nights in the gym, summers, freaking weekends, traveling. He's been there through it all. I mean, he's been my main coach for 12 plus years, and if you count football, like 16 plus years. It's just we've been on a long journey together in the powerlifting and athletic world.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, your entire family's kind of that way. So from what I gather, I mean, I know your mom is pretty athletic, right? She does. She trains people, right? Or does she just?
No. Right now, my mom, she's big time into running. She's done a couple half marathons. She's training for a full one this year. Yeah, she's doing a lot of that, and she's also doing her lifting on the side. So my mom does lift. She's done a couple competitions. She's actually thinking about doing one in the summer. So hopefully she sticks to that and she gets it done.
Would this be her first?
No, this would be her, I want to say, second or third competition. But she really does it just to gauge where she's at, and as far as long as she's training.
Yeah, I mean, you know, would you say that that's kind of influenced you, having a family that is athletic, has influenced your path a bit?
Kind of. I mean, they put me in sports since day one. As soon as I was ready for NYS, they threw me in it. You know, see all those sports over there? You're doing all of them. I mean, I didn't play baseball for very long because, you know, I was too hyper to be a catcher or outfielder. Yeah. I wasn't good enough to be a pitcher or a baseman. Yeah, I understand. So that didn't take me anywhere for a while. But soccer, football, basketball, I mean, I was year round just running around, throwing balls around.
So this has like kind of been built into you, as just a part of your, like, almost like your identity. Like, that's really cool, man. So is there, you know, what does your dad do now? I know that, like, you know, just a quick thing I want to, you know, mention, John Pena is teaching, he's going to be teaching some classes here actually for youth for strength training, because I met John at a USA PL certification I hosted here at Total Body Training. And that's how we met, and I was just impressed with how thorough John is when he explains something.
Oh, yeah. He's very technical. I mean, he's probably read the Starting Strength book just as many times as some of the people that are actually certified. He's probably pretty much just as qualified to teach it, if not. I mean, he puts it more into layman's terms, which I think really helps out the people that we're going to be working with. I'll try to stop by in the summer and help y'all out every now and then when I can.
Yeah.
But it really helps out trying to put it into more layman's terms, because, you know, doctors come in and they throw out all these fancy languages, but being a teacher himself, he knows how to say it to people to where they understand it and they can get it that much better.
Yeah, and John, yes, 100%. John knows how to explain something that could be potentially like really complicated in a way that anyone can understand. And if he can tell that you don't understand it, he finds a different way to say it for you. He's it's a testament to how good of a coach he is, but also how good of a teacher and how good of a listener he is. It's very impressive. You know, I mean, it's almost like people either go one way or the other when they coach. They either like are too simple when they teach, and then they don't get the message across, so somebody continues to struggle, or they're overly complicated or overbearing.
And then the student just misses everything.
Yeah, which has been the case for me. I'm not going to give any shout outs, but I've had people try to teach me something, you know, for powerlifting or for some kind of technique, and they overwhelm the person, you know, and as a trainer, you know, I'm like, whoa, like you're trying to, you know, me as a trainer, like I feel like this person's overwhelming me, versus like, hey, if you just like kind of like chilled out a little bit and taught it to me more easily.
He's really good as far as explaining things to people.
Yeah, and so he'll be teaching youth classes here for strength training. I'm really excited to have that. Yeah, shout out. What's his page again? It's Strong
First HC on Instagram.
Yeah, follow him on Instagram. Yeah, there's some cool stuff going on there. And yeah, so he's influenced you a lot, and it sounds like your mom. Is your brother? You have a brother, right?
Yeah, my brother. He was involved in strength training for a while. I mean, he's always been. I don't want to dog on him really, but he's always been more of a bookworm. He's pretty smart.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, he's always been the smart of the bunch.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was powerlifting for a while. He did a couple meets with us, so he was definitely into it for a little bit. He's starting to get back into it now, but he kind of stopped for a little bit. You know, got all sidetracked in college and stuff. That's why I was really lucky to go to a school like Wilson University, shout out, where they. Where I could still pursue that lifting career that I wanted to.
So that brings me to the next question. Okay, so tell us about your football right now. What's going on there?
Okay, so right now, I'm still in my freshman year of college, and I redshirted this year, which I thought was probably the best thing for me to do. I came in a little injured. I had some problems. I don't want to get into it right now, but I did have some problems, so I came in a little injured. I came back, and the season was already started, so I was like, you know, I don't really have time to fight for a spot like I want to. Would it be okay if I just redshirted this year? So they're like, yeah, that's fine. You will put you as an injured redshirt, and you'll just work out with us throughout the season. And that worked out really well for me because I still got to train and go to Raw Nationals this year, which they were really lenient with me, and I really appreciate. I really respect them for letting me do that. But yeah, they let me do that, and they're still working with me as far as what I'm doing. So they've just been really like cool with me, and they've really let me pursue my powerlifting career like I wanted to. So, but with spring ball around the corner, or spring ball right now, and some of the things coming in the future, I might have to start thinking a little bit more about football.
Yeah, so you're going to have to kind of dedicate a little bit more time. And that's nothing that you're not used to, right? Because you kind of have balanced those two things out your whole life.
I try so hard to balance them out.
Yeah, so like, how do you balance that and being in school? And I mean, tell us about that. What's that experience like?
Yeah, it's a lot of time management. You really got to focus on like what you find most important at the time. Like, you really need to focus on keeping your grades up, and then when powerlifting season's around, you need to focus on powerlifting, and when football season's around, you need to focus on working out, getting maybe a little extra conditioning in to make sure you're ready.
And so where do you see football factoring into your life? Like, is that something that you could see being a part of like your career, or are you leaning more towards academics, the stuff that you're doing academically right now? And if you don't know, I mean, I'm a freshman in college. You're a freshman in college. I mean, when I was, just for context, like when I was a freshman in college, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So like this guy has way more direction than I do. And even when I graduated from college, if you had told me, because I was not an athletic person, I don't have your background, that I was going to be a trainer and that I was going to be interested in fitness, I would have been like, get the fuck out. Like, you know what I mean? So sometimes things kind of change. But like, where are you at right now mentally? Like, do you see football as being something that you have, that you're taking seriously as you get older, the NFL, anything like that?
No, I mean, I go to a little school. It's an NAIA school, so most colleges or most professional teams don't really look at the NAIA level. So I'm not really looking this being a thing that I'm continuing after the 4 years, but it's been a great ride so far.
Yeah, you're just enjoying the game.
Oh yeah,
like, and that's something you've been doing your whole life. Yeah, that's dope, man. I mean, just doing it for like the pure fun of it. It sounds like, and keeping your edge.
Oh yeah.
So, what are you going to school for right now?
Right now, I'm going to school to be an athletic trainer, just to make sure that because I've always been interested in athletics, obviously, and just keeping people healthy and making sure they're doing the best in their sport that they can possibly do. So I thought athletic training would be the best opportunity for me to do that.
And so what, like for our viewers at home, what is an athletic trainer? What exactly does that mean?
Okay, athletic trainers, broken down, is basically they're pretty much an on-the-spot doctor. So if somebody gets injured, they're there diagnosing what just happened, being a concussion, ACLs, ACL being one of the more common ones in the sports that I'm involved in. Really breaking down like, okay, what happened to you at this moment? And then they're also in injury prevention. So you go to them like, hey, like my shoulder's a little tight and I need to get it looser so I can do the best to not maybe tear something when I'm throwing the ball or maybe when I'm doing this or that. So they really help you out, and it's more injury prevention and instant diagnosis on the field or wherever the competition may be.
Awesome, man. And so is that a 4-year, or do you have to go to masters or anything like that?
It's a master's program, but what's great about my school is that they have a 3-2 program where you do 3 years undergraduate and 2 years graduate. And since it's a graduate program and they already have it at the school, you can just stay there.
That's awesome, man. That's badass. So I think we are kind of getting close to wrapping this up. You know, what I hear from you, Joseph, is that you have like a really good work ethic. And, and this is the theme that I keep hearing. It's like, yeah, sure, you mentioned like people thought like, oh, I'm like a little bit ADD or like this, but it sounds like you've really busted your ass in everything that you do. Do you want to speak to your work ethic and where that kind of comes from before we wrap it up?
Yeah. So the work ethic part of it is that I'm the main, like when I talked about when I had like ADD maybe and stuff like that, they didn't put me on any meds. I just kind of found a way to kind of hone in all that energy and stuff. And I really found that to be in sports. So all the sports they put me in, and then powerlifting, I really funneled in all that energy that I had. I mean, I get home and I'm dead tired. I take a shower, eat, go to bed. So I really like put all that extra energy that I had into all my sports and my academics and everything I pretty much put enough on my plate to where it kind of just made me the person I am.
Yep. That's awesome, man. Do you have, I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions in just a second, but do you have any suggestions for a youth right now, someone who's coming up and wants to powerlift or somebody who wants to play football? Any like tips real quick? If you don't, that's okay. I know I'm just kind of throwing this your way.
Some good tips.
Anything. It could be anything. What's something you wish you could have told a younger version of you?
Ooh, focus. Focus. A lot of times when I was younger, I had a problem like focusing and paying attention, and that probably would have helped me a lot, being a little bit farther ahead than I was right now.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I already started at a pretty young age lifting and stuff, so but being stronger will definitely help you in any sport you're in.
All right, good deal. All right, so I'm just going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up after that, okay? All right, so Joseph, real quick, are there any shows that you're watching right now on Netflix, Hulu, TV? What are your favorites right now? You can name a few.
I like Rick and Morty.
Okay.
And then
the cartoon. That's the cartoon show, right?
Yeah, the cartoon one. Yeah. I have been watching a little bit of Workaholics too. But usually I tend just to be on YouTube a little bit every now and then, podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, Workaholics is good. I haven't watched much of Rick and Morty, but I know it's good. I just haven't seen it yet. And Workaholics is hilarious. These guys are funny. All right, any favorite books?
Books. I mean, I haven't really read a book in a while, but the one that's always in my head when I think about books is Jim Candy. I don't know the name of the author right offhand.
What's it called? Jim
Candy.
Okay, Candy.
It's a sport book.
Okay.
It's about a kid who starts taking steroids in high school because he wants to be stronger and better at his sports. So he starts taking steroids and really working. And not that his work ethic wasn't good in the beginning, but he wanted to be that much better, and it leads to a bad direction. I mean, go read the book.
Okay, all right, sweet. It's called Gym Candy. I'll find the name of the book, and I'll put in the author in the YouTube version of this.
I like it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, food. Favorite,
here we go.
Favorite food. Last day on Earth, what do you eat? Your last meal?
Chicken Alfredo.
Chicken Alfredo. What do you have to drink with it? Do you have something to drink, and do you have dessert?
Ooh.
Yeah, let's see. I want it the whole thing, man.
I mean,
Chicken Alfredo. Okay.
As of right now, I'm not a big soda guy, so I'd probably either just stick with probably like water or Gatorade.
Okay. All right.
Definitely the chicken Alfredo. Appetizers probably mozzarella sticks.
Okay, mozzarella sticks.
Those are always really good anywhere you go. And then dessert.
That's a good one.
Cheesecake.
Oh yeah.
Cheesecake, man.
Yeah, cheesecake.
I'm a big guy, so you know, I can tell you what's good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's perfect, man. Awesome. All right, do you want to give where can we find you? Where can our viewers find you?
I'm on Instagram right now, mostly at _jalapeno. I thought it'd be pretty funny. It was either that or pena colada. Jalapeno one.
They're both good. Yeah. That's cool. And what about, I know you're on, are you on any other media platforms right now that you actually use?
Not that I actually use. I mean, my dad posts some of my videos on YouTube every now and then. But other than that, I'm pretty much stay on Instagram.
Okay, and I'm John Carlos with Total Body Training. You can follow me at Total Body Training. We're a workout studio here in San Antonio, Texas. Do you have anybody that you want to give a shout out to that's important? Any of your sponsors? Anything right now before I let everybody go?
Since we're on a podcast, I do have 2 sponsors right now. At Beast Genetics, they're a company based in Australia. So it takes a little bit long for their stuff to get here, but they're a great company. They've been supporting me a lot.
Yep.
I'm not wearing the shirt today, but they even made me a custom shirt for meets and stuff. It was really great.
It's Beast Genetics?
Yes, Beast Genetics apparel.
Okay.
Not apparel, but
Yeah.
And then PR Breaker. I've been taking their pre-workout a lot lately, and it's been getting me through all my days.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, all right. So it's awesome, man.
And for PR Breaking, you can use code PENA10 for 10% off. Just saying.
There you go. All right, sweet. All right, so you got your own code too. That's badass, man. That's really cool. All right, man. It's been a good conversation. I hope to have you back on the podcast soon. All right. All right, people. I'll see you next time. Peace. Yeah, sweet, man. Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
I think we might have gone over on
Just a
time.
little bit, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I kind of like screwed you up time wise. Are you sure we're good?
Yeah, we're fine.
It's 12:50.
No, yeah, we're good.
You're good?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Yeah, man. I think that's gonna come out.